Hello? Hello? Oh, hi. Boom, get this. I got a whole bunch of things to lay out. Like an architect. I came into a little bit of knowledge out there today. As I was Christopher Nolan around. Now, how do I explain it? How do I lay it out? Okay. What did I perceive? That's a good question. You know what my problem is? Bottlenecking. I charge up throughout the day. And then it comes out here kind of like a kamehameha, or like peeing with a boner. It's just everywhere. Splatter, you double stream, triple stream, coming out of left field, moving sideways. It's raining sideways. Peeing with a boner. I came into a piece of valuable information. And why is it valuable? Why is it valuable? Okay, first and foremost, I don't know why it's valuable, but I have some sort of inkling that it might be. I don't know. It's like some kind of shiny incorporeal object to me that just feels. It's like when you hold something small that's really heavy. There's something satisfying about things that are really dense. And so perhaps is one of these kind of strange things. I was reading a book that I have read probably 89 times in my entire life. And I came to understand something about this book, about my mind, maybe about our minds as humans, as this sort of creature. Came to understand something about our reality. Did I understand it well enough to explain it? No. Am I going to let that stop me? Definitely not. Of course not. Who qualifies anybody? Hey, who gives the certificate? Hey, you're totally qualified to now speak on things. I don't. Okay, I'm just going to blast through. Anyway, so I started blasting. Pew, pew. Shatai. When I was reading this book, I remembered times that I read this book in my past. And I remember when I first read this book, it was all fun and games. I was in a good state of mind. I was happy. I was more or less naive, blind. Just, I had a positive yellow outlook on life. Things were bright. I was an optimist. Woke up an optimist. Hold me back, I'm about to spaz. This type of shit. People couldn't get me down. There was no such thing as that. I was riding on a silver lining. Okay? Everything. Dude, I was the shining, radiant light of the universe in human form. This is before the fall, okay? This is before the fall of man, the fall of humanity. This is before This is when all is good and all is well. This is before the first drop of sweat runs down your back and you're like, oh. Anyways, so when I read the book at that time, I was like, dude, this is amazing. Oh, yeah. And then that book was very sentimental to me. Sentimental. I held it very near and dear, very close to my heart. Like, this thing very well could have been scripture. The author. It felt like a friend. It felt like a lover. It felt like someone was speaking to my soul. It felt like the Kendrick Lamar verse in Now and Never. To your soul, I was talking. To you, I was walking. And through every ghetto, tell success, hello, we here. 'Cause I can't believe all the things I ever wanted are finally happening for me. And it's so surreal that I almost feel that any minute I could wake up from this fantasy. When you pray so hard. Anyways, I kind of had this, I went through a chapter of despair. Complete dread and despair. Okay, I'd wake up in the morning and I would be so... Ah, man. Okay, so I was so irritated. I was mostly scared. In fear, and it was mostly fear, anxiousness, but that would sort of, the ways that it would come out and express itself would be like all the negative emotions. I would be angry, I would be bothered, I would be isolated, shut in, I would be defensive, I would be hiding away, I would shield myself from others, I would not want to go out and talk to people. I wouldn't leave the house very much. And I was a night crawler, a night walker, a real night walker. Like, go outside and sort of mentally interact with stray cats and shit. Look up at the moon. Be a real werewolf. Anyways, so like when the day would come, it was depressing for me because other people were awake. Other people were generally awake during the day, and that would fuck with me. As my mind would especially fuck with me because people chatter. All right, and something about the mind is that when you have something that's sort of like pressing on a pressure point of your mind, your mind does not let go. It has the grip of a fucking baby hand. It does not let go. Not very easily. Not without some holistic know-how. Not without any voodoo magic. Possible voodoo magic. Someone else controls my pain. Possible voodoo magic. And it's possible, but more likely I'm just unlucky, but who's to say? Anyway, okay, so I had that sort of despair. And so what I would do sometimes is I would, honestly, before I jet set through that chapter was kind of defined for me by a lot of uncertainty, right? I was going through a lot of things emotionally, going through a lot of things mentally, going through a lot of things psychologically, And I didn't know how to process these things. What was happening to me in that moment in time? As I look back, I could probably define it as I was coming into contact with my own patterns of life. I was sort of confronted with the new levels of awareness of my own behaviors, my own actions, my own decisions, my own choices, and things that were once just autonomous. Things that I would just, I would always make the right-hand turn. I would always flush the toilet with my left hand, with my pointer finger. Always, I would just always do this in this way. Now, I woke up to the present moment in such a way that blew my brain into a trillion pieces of shrapnel in every fucking direction. And because of this, dude, it got so crazy for me. Because at some point in time, I recognized, I was like, oh my God, at any given point, the path less traveled, that made all the difference. This sort of inseminated itself into my mind, and because of that, it was the sort of catalyst for the craziest sort of mitosis possible. 1 turns to 2, 2 turns to 4, 4 turns to 16, 16 turns to 256, 256 turns into, it's that word. Exponential growth, okay? It's exponential growth. And so I had that kind of expansion of an experience for me. And what happened as a result of that is I would analyze so fucking deeply every little tiny decision, all of the things that I became so aware that I had, diminishing returns on things. And now, when I would go to flush the toilet with my left hand with the fucking pointer finger, now I couldn't just do that. Now I had to think about, well, what's the right hand to do this? Should I do it with my feet? Should I do it with my elbow? Questioning things that I never would have questioned before. And what I see now is that sometimes you don't even need to do that. But I don't think it can be helped, really. It's just something you have to go through. If you get to that kind of ridiculous level of craze in which, I found myself. Okay, so, any last little things about that little epoch of despair that I'd like to put out here? Dispel in the air? Open the window and clean out the stench of? Nope. Let's move on. Okay, yeah, so I would read this book during this time, and it was almost like, an almanac, like some kind of survivor's guide to Ned's Declassified School Survival Guide. Fucking, this book was, this book was basically like the Bible to a devout person. Like, this was the Word of God, and it might as well have been. Like, this is the sort of manual to life, I've got a 2013 Toyota Camry. This is the goddamn manual to this shit. And anything that goes wrong for the engine, anything that goes along with the electrical systems and whatnot, this is the sort of diagnostic toolkit that will allow me to fucking just fucking and now I have the knowledge. This is the wisdom here, and if I can just apply these two things, I will be able to understand what my next step will be, and then I'll be able to do it sufficiently, and yes, I'll have the blueprint in my fucking mind to sort of bring about I don't know, whatever success would be in that moment in time. Because what my life was in that time was a battle. It was a war. And so, what I did in that moment in time was use this book as a kind of sword and shield and food for thought that would provide me nutrients and a way of life to sort of funnily enough, Logic hit it pretty well with Soul Food 2. He said, if it wasn't for the music in their ears, they would have lost it. Well, I decided to pick up that book today again and started reading it. And what I encountered, whatever, is that this book grew with me. This book has been growing with me because what I have been reading isn't a product of the text itself. Not necessarily. It's a product of my own fucking mind. All of it. Everything. My mind took the text back in the good old fucking days, in the golden era before the fall, and it applied it, it sort of applied itself to the template of the book then. Right? The text was nothing more than furniture that I would organize in the rooms of my house at that time. Then, the sort of despair chapter came through, and my mind would apply it there too. And sort of use the text as a kind of template, a kind of stencil for my life. And I recognized, pretty much when I read the book again today, same thing. It was interesting. It was like, what? It would pull things from the past. It would. And I don't read books normally. Okay, my mind is having a little more fun with it nowadays. It's working a little more abstract. I read this book backwards, okay? I read this book like it was a fucking Japanese manga. I was going counterclockwise. I was reading from right to left. I was jumping. All right, there were little segments that I had underlined beforehand. probably like the last time I read this book. And what I did instead was, I would just jump, dude. I wouldn't read the book like how you'd read when your English teacher in 7th grade would ask you to read, in the same way that you read the whole paragraph. You read the stanza from left to right, all the way from top down. No, dude. I was letting my eye just catch whatever interested it, whatever, sort of jumped out at it. I'd let my eye, I'd let my mind, I'd let it just sort of illuminate whatever, sort of thing had interested it. Whatever sort of led it, right? Whatever the fucking carrot on the stick was to my mind and my eye, I let it just go there. Unrestricted. I wasn't saying, dude, we gotta read. I was saying no. I wasn't saying shit. I was letting it say things to me. Sort of reveal itself to me. And yup. That shit was amazing. I loved that. It was fantastic. And then it got to a point where I guess it was more of like Jay-Z's Church in the Wild. It was human beings to a God. What is God to a king? What is king to a God? What is God to a non-believer who don't believe in anything? Make it out alive. Alright. No church in a while. More like Big Sean, where he says, it's not about how you praising him in the building, it's how you praising him while you out, right? To me, it was more like, really, most directly, it was like, what are you gonna do when you close the fucking book, right? Right here, we're in a holding pattern. Right here, we're kind of in a, we're kind of in a little, what is this, huh? What is this? This is, oh my God, I've got the best fucking analogy for everybody in the universe. If you're a gamer, if you've ever played Portal, this is like when you shoot that fucking orange portal on the ground, you shoot the blue portal in the sky on the ceiling, and you just jump into it, and now you're just kind of falling into this infinite sort of simulacrum where you're falling through the floor, bloop, you come out the top of the ceiling, and then you fall through that space, only to fall right into the portal before you that you set, and we're infinitely falling in some kind of paradoxical, it's impossible structure in reality. Even though this is reality. Reality has qualities like this. And this is a kind of thing that we're doing. We're in a holding pattern of life right here. This is what it can be. This is what it can be, right? Mac Miller. I'll show you what it is, what it might be. I don't even know what song that is. Show you what it is, what it truly might be, nothing that you know of. You don't need to hold up. Okay? I can show you what it is, what it truly might be, nothing that you know of. You don't need to hold up. Alright, all that being said, what now? What else is there left for me to say? See, because that was a beautifully packaged this orchestral symphony, a sort of arrangement of beautiful concepts, a chandelier of my favorite fucking word form. Oh my god! Oh my god! Oh, Terrence McKenna. When he blasted some fucking DMT, and the elves, the machine elves, they say to him, "Oh, it's like a bouncing Fabergé shining egg." They're communicating with language, structures, shapes in this realm. And they say, "Do as we do. Do as we do." And so he just starts he starts going into glossolalia, just that. Well, what does that mean? Oh, Lord, amen, amen. What that means is, well, now we get into the all too human world of my personal kind of plights, no? I bare my soul and I say, "Yeah, Lord Jesus out there, here's my predicament. I offer you the ink. I offer you the stain. I offer you a picture of the stain on my shirt that I keep looking at. I can think to myself right now how obviously the thing that I just made has been it's been a sampling. It's been a sort of smorgasbord of all the sort of, conglomerate. It's been an amalgamate. When you go to the deli, and if you're a meat eater and you get a slice of ham from Oscar Mayer, or a hot dog. You ever have a hot dog? You ever have a hot dog? You ever have a hot dog? Hot dog! Hot dog! Well, a hot dog, you know what that is, dude? That's like 1,000 fucking pigs, cows and chickens or whatever, just fucking, they tossed them into some kind of jet engine and they just mixed them all up. It's called an amalgamate. It's not, you think that's just one pig? One animal? No, it's 1 trillion of them minced into this mush, and then they add a whole bunch of other things to it to kind of solidify it, and then there you go. There's your hot dog. You ever have a hot dog? That's what a hot dog is. It's an amalgamate. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. What we end up making is a conglomerate of all the things that have been influential to us in some kind of way that we like. And, dude, I've been on this kind of kick. I've been going a little bit insane because with my phone, I'm like, I guess what I've been noticing is there's been I've been on that, I've been on that little bit of neuroticism kick, dude. I've been on a little bit on that sort of, I've been a real bouncer I've been a real bouncer in the club. You know what I'm saying? It's your birthday, Shawty. It's your birthday. We gonna party like it's your birthday. In the club, showing all love. You know, I'm out there like a goddamn bouncer, all black, jacked to shit, black man bald. You feel me? I got that bald black man cut. Big as shit, right there. You know what I'm saying? Standing, sturdy, jacked as a mofo. Right there, blacked out. Black is beautiful. Black is beautiful. And I'm there, standing outside the club with the red velvet rope and shit. And I'm like, oh, yeah, y'all can come in. Y'all can come in. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I got y'all. Yeah, y'all can come in. Whoa. Y'all ain't coming in. Right, I'm sort of doing this kind of semi-permeable assessment of who can come in my special domain, who can come into my tree home, all right? Come into my tree home, boy, you must be special. No one ever comes here. Bring yo PJ. Yes. And I do this because sometimes I will recognize things. So here's part of the universe, right? Here's part of the universe. Sometimes I'm like pretty low vibration or whatever, and I'm just sort of I'm just sort of listening along to whatever kind of podcast I might have once liked, and then I'm at that sort of level where I'm like, I'm just sort of like unconsciously kind of, I don't want to say unconsciously. I'll put these podcasts on because I like them. Because I have at one point, right? I'm listening to these things with the intent to enjoy whatever it is that I hit play on. And so I don't know if I want to blast off some specific examples of what I at what point liked, and then now I'm finding myself not liking them as much, right? Not liking them as much, but that is the case. And I've also just here's what I've been noticing more than anything of just not liking it. First of all, I've noticed myself being... I guess what I've noticed is I've found myself having sort of adverse... what is it? I've noticed the direct sort of opposition of perspectives that I'll have with whatever I'm listening to. And then I'll be like, ugh, the fuck? This guy's retarded. In some kind of way. I'll be like, I just don't agree. I don't agree with this guy. I don't agree with how he lives his life. I don't agree with what is it? Okay, so in this specific instance, I'm thinking of somebody who's like white knighting. I'm thinking of somebody who's listening to somebody complain about their life and then just kind of listening to it and then agreeing with the person who's sort of complaining about their life or whatever. And then, I don't even know, just not offering them the best possible, in my eyes, the best possible sort of thing there, right? And we've all heard this shit, right? We've all heard this kind of shit. People will say, do you listen to people with the intent to, just let them blast off and sort of vent? Or do you listen to people with the intent to, problem solve and give them solutions? They say that there's a sort of masculine imperative versus a feminine imperative. And the feminine thing is just to, let people, boop, boop, boop. And then the sort of male perspective is fucking frogs in the street here. Obviously, you know, I love Futurama with that Zoidberg impression. Whoop, 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 whoop. Zoidberg. Anyways, so in this hyper-specific example, I listened to somebody who would I don't know, just kind of self-censor themselves. And it pissed me off. I was like, why am I listening to this shit? I hate it. And then I was like, well, I guess it dawned upon me that I could just turn this shit off at any given moment in time. And then it also occurred to me, I was like, well, should I really be turning off things that bother me? Or should I listen further into that? You know, is this happening for me? Is this happening for me as a sort of like a proponent that this is merely just an ingredient, right? This is like, if I think green, I don't have to think grass. If I think green, I can think cherry blossoms. I could think whatever the fuck. It doesn't have to be, you know, one thing leads to another. It could one thing, totally other thing. So I don't need to think. I'm thinking to myself, this could be a learning moment for me. This could be a human growth for me. I'm thinking, well, I hear this person. I don't need to necessarily instantaneously go to, you know, anger, bothered, irritation, even though that's sort of my innate, initial feeling with this. It's like, there could be something here. There's potential for something. I think to myself, something like that. Right, something like that. And then it's a deep ass fucking rabbit hole. It's a deep rabbit hole. And I go into it, and I'm like, well, deep rabbit hole. What is here in this rabbit hole? What's actually here in this rabbit hole? I don't even have the words right now, right? I'm getting lost in the sauce. P.B. Herman, freaking, Sam Sosa, lost in the sauce. I didn't mean to. Sorry. You're here, I'm here, that's it. You see, you can see the problem with people, bro. That are angry and retarded. know what just happened to me? The reason why I know why the world has problems. Dude's sitting down. I'm on the sidewalk walking. He's not some invisible entity. It's nighttime. He's there. I'm here. I'm walking. He's sitting. I pass by. We look at each other. Fuck are you looking at? Dude, that's like, this is the thing that fills me with murderous intent. The kind of thing that makes me want to pick up some rocks, keep them in my pocket. The fuck are you looking at? He says. I think I'm looking at the next murder victim. Okay, so how about we play the tape out, right? I don't think there's a chance. Okay. I'm on a walk here. Obviously, there's a million ways that you can get to where you want to go. Right? So, if eventually the end point is getting back home, what do I do? Well, innately, I want to walk, when I'm done walking in this direction, I kind of innately want to walk back. I want to walk back on this sidewalk, the other direction. I want to go in the other direction. And I kind of want to have, whatever next sort of interaction with that dude is. Innately, I kind of want to do that. Or you could just not. So, in this very moment in time, I got feelings riding around in me that every human being in the entire time span of our species lifespan has ever felt in their entire life, which is some kind of mixture of rage and like, you know, when you get into a fight or something like that, and then you just think of all the shit you could have said afterwards, and then part of you also thinks you're kind of a pussy. Like, you didn't punch that guy in the face? You didn't explode with the fury of a nuclear bomb? Oh, you're telling me you went with a little boy when you could have gone with a fat man? Fucking damn, you didn't execute on your best potential. You know, I'm going through these kind of like very prickly feelings inside of me right now. And what is the answer to this? What is the answer? So first of all, that dude who was once sitting, he blasted past me. You probably heard it. He blasted past me on his electrical scooter. Okay, I didn't need to add the electrical part. Sorry. It's like when someone adds your little thing. Oh, did you write your little story? He blasted past me on a scooter. Electrical. Blasted past me on his electrical scooter. He blasted past me on his electrical scooter. And so, if I walk back this way, that encounter is kaput's go. But alas, like, I think to myself, well, what is the best possible thing in the entire universe that could come as a result? And I'm talking about specifically the relationship dynamics between myself and that guy who was probably like 2 years younger than me. Right? Like, I can go over I think like what would happen, right? Like, what is the best possible thing? Right? Because how do we change the world? How do we change the world, right? I mean, do I go back on? Probably on. Okay, this is one of those things, probably. Like, you know, I believe in communication. I believe in the capabilities of diplomacy. Right? I think that the sharpness 3 on what truth is. I believe in the fucking knockback 2 of the truth. I believe in the fucking bane of arthropods of the truth. I believe that this is the greatest possible tool for any person in the entire universe is the truth. Because if I'm encountering somebody who is in that state of fear and they're willing to fight, all I did was fucking look. The craziest thing is, like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. Because I'm sorry. Because we don't see the world for what it is. We see the world from who we are. And so we never get to see the world as it is. We see it. It's filtered through us. And so I'm over here, you know, I just see this dude. And I'm kind of here, just, you know, walking. I'm fucking walking. Things are up in the air. You see another person. You think to yourself, that's another person. I'm a person. we have more things in common than we don't. So it's like, how can I not look at a person? You know, the thing about a lot of us, I'm sure, is that we don't have, you know, a lot of people are living through screens. They're living through, you know, if you've ever seen that that old school game of Cube World, a lot of people are just living in their rooms, and when they're not living in their rooms, they're just living their lives through roles, through their jobs, and so they never really get to experience life from a place of who they might be actually, which oftentimes is more or less like a scared little kid who is willing to try, like. But then there's the adult that's like, oh, I'm, you know, a lot of times when we grow, our minds grow stronger than our hearts do. And the mind will do what it can to sort of protect the heart from doing anything. And really, it's like the heart is more powerful, it's braver, it's better than the mind anyways. My opinion. Sure, it's messier, whatever. But the only thing that has a problem with the mess is the mind anyways. Anyways, I don't want this to turn into some kind of civil war between the heart and the mind. You know, we're all one system. So to, you know, sort of blast upon itself, that's not the move right now. You know, but anyways, I was saying I believe in communication and the truth. Like, he came off all hostile and whatever, and it was probably because he was like, oh God, I don't want to fight, but I also don't want to be a pussy. Let me bark. Dude. I feel I'm gonna fuck it, dude. MF Doom style, snitches, you know, rap snitches, fucking. They got these dudes snitching on themselves. Like, I'm thinking to myself in this moment in time, like, I don't care. I don't walk around open carry, right? I don't have a concealed thing. But I think to myself in that moment in time, like, what if I reached into my waistband as if I did have something, and I say, what'd you say? It's like, go further into it, you know? Scare the shit out of this dude to make him shut his fucking mouth. Like, don't talk to people like that, you fucking retard. There's that. And then I think to myself, that helps nobody. That helps absolutely nobody. That just makes people, that'll just silence everybody. That means, you know, the fear will be there, but now instead of saying anything, he'll just move into freeze mode. Doesn't help anybody. You know, I think to myself, truth will set us all free. Dude, we are perceptive creatures, okay? We pick up on tone, cadence, pitch. We pick up on word choice and such. And we can pick up on the difference between like a, hey bro, and yo bro. We can pick up on these various little nuances of words, even if we're using the same sort of words. And I guess what I'm really trying to get and crack the walnut shell of this moment is, like, I think to myself on the sort of personal level, like, if I were to, I don't think I'd want to be friends with that guy. I think our relationship would only ever have to be something like a touch and go sort of perpendicular kind of relationship. It's just a one-time sort of event. And the best thing I can possibly do in that moment in time is bring out the sort of Mahayana Buddhist approach, you know, the biggest of all Buddhas, the universal Buddha in that moment in time is just, it's like, do I want that guy as a friend? No. Do I want that person to grow as a human being? Yes. Do we have to do some, we might have to do some things to do such that in the future? Probably. What is my part in that? Just be honest. Be honest. Definitely be honest, dude. Because at this moment in time, I can't just predict that in the future, I'm not going to be seeing the world through the kind of lens that is red. I can't predict that in the future, I'm not going to be, I'm not going to be seeing the world through this kind of, I will fight the world kind of eyes. Like, sometimes God wants to show you something, and so he gives you a new pair of glasses, and he gives you a little time frame to see the world through that kind of lens, just to give you a new perspective, to give you the sort of mind frame of what is backing that perspective. And so yeehaw, cowboys. Now, here's something that I'm curious about, because okay, so this will just be a little fun little thing that we could, just a little fun little monkey claw kind of puzzle, right? In the Tao of Wu, there is a parable, a story about the RZA and someone known as Junjun. Now, Junjun was a big mofo. He's the same age as the RZA, but he's like huge. He's a fucking mutant for his age. So, when they're going into 6th grade, he's already benching 200 pounds. He's jacked as shit, apparently. And apparently Junjun got into a little kerfuffle with the RZA's cousin or something like that. So now there's a kind of sins of the father, There's a hatred by way of association between these two. So when he gets to that middle school in that new neighborhood or whatever, it's they're laying, they're throwing hands now. They're about to throw hands. And so anyway, long story long, RZA gets into it with this dude Junjun, and he thinks to him, the first time that they fight, the RZA loses. And he says, you know how you've lost a fight? When you gotta bite a motherfucker to get up. So I don't really think I did anything other than that, to be honest, but whatever, the human heart, the better part, you love them or dissect them. Happiness or flashiness, how do you serve the question? See, in a perfect world, I'd choose faith over religion. I'd choose church over bitches. I'd choose, I'd take all the religions and put them all in one service to tell them, we ain't shit, son, but he's been perfect, world. I can't I can't. So the second time that Jun and the RZA fought, it was a fight to the death. It was a fight to the death. Because here's the sort of lead up to that. Jun, he says, yeah, blah, 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 boy, to the RZA, and the RZA says, at this time I was 14 and I had knowledge of self at this time, so I just couldn't let somebody disrespect me like that. That's why I said, I ain't no boy, man. And he said, at that point it was on, like Donkey Kong and Diddy Kong, living long. And so after school, they go to the park, big ass fucking crowd. I'm talking Rocky. The movie Rocky. He's running. Now all of a sudden the whole fucking city's running after him. What the hell? Dude, I fucking wish it was like that shit. That's awesome. What if you just started running in the mall and then out of nowhere, like you look behind you, it's just a conglomerate of people. Whoa. Dude, humans do some cool shit with babies. I'll get into the Jun RZA thing, but humans do some cool shit with babies, dude. They'll sit a baby down in front of a big-ass crowd, and then whatever the baby will do, the crowd they just mimic that. And the baby's like, whoa, my God, what the? He'll start clapping. Everybody's clapping. He starts raising his hands. Everybody's raising his hand. We don't do fun shit like this enough when we grow. Why do we not? What is wrong with us? Why are we so scared? Don't know. I don't know. Anyways, so the RZA, Jun fought, and they said it was like a fight between grown men at that time, and that nobody was giving up. They were both showing courageous hearts in that moment in time. Bleeding, holding rocks, and that no one was giving up. So at one point, dude, he said something about like wanting to teach Jun. He felt like he could teach him. He wanted to teach him the supreme mathematics. He wanted to teach him about the nation of gods and earths. He wanted to teach him about whatever the 5% nation was to him at that moment in time. Knowledge of self, homie. Mathematics. Supreme alphabet. Malcolm X. Muhammad Ali. Anyways. That's where my mind went. Not to say that that's true, or that I'm like the RZA, and that dude's like Jun, but this is where my mind goes with it. Where else does it go? Where does it go in this point? Well, I think to myself, what do I think to myself? Initially, I think to myself, it's probably better to just let that man go. To not do shit. He wants to be angry. Let him process his anger on his own. If someone beats the shit out of him at some later point in time, or pulls a gun out on him, and he incurs soul-puncturing damage as a result of that, hey, his karma. Next, I think to myself, some crazy shit. I think to myself, if you have if you bring a weapon somewhere, the likelihood of you using that weapon increases a fuck ton. And so, if I ever start, like, bringing knives out, if I start bringing fucking homemade brass knuckles made out of bolts and nuts, or a bow staff or some shit like that, just out on these walks, that I'm essentially, like, I'm signaling the universe subconsciously that I'm looking for a fight or some shit. And that I should just not do that. That's one. Two would be back to that relationship with that dude. I mean, I'm thinking about things karmically. I'm thinking about things cosmically. Like, I'm talking butterfly effect, dude. I'm talking butterfly effect. I hate that this is the current state of relationships between people. Has it always been like this? I have no fucking clue. No fucking clue. Think to myself, well, what can I do about it? To make it better. What can I do to make it better? Okay, the first step, what can I do to make it better, is, what is better? Right? Right, that's a good one. What is better? I already know. I know what to do next time. Perhaps, maybe. I think I'm just gonna say, hello? Jolly good night, not today. Jolly good show! Some shit like that. And then just be on my way. And sort of cool the waters before they even have a chance to get hot like that. Probably be my MO. Alright. Anything else? Huh? Anything else tonight? This has been fun. This has been at least 2 interesting little packets of stuff. What next? I guess I'll talk about my recent issues. Like, I had some issues today. Some mental issues. I don't like the connotations between mental issues, but I guess I did have some fucking mental issues today. Some things that I was trapped on. Some things that were snagging on my clothes. Some things that were snagging on my astral clothing. Some proverbial pebbles in my shoe as I was walking around through today. And it's the concept of the way of the tiger versus the way of the dragon. The tiger is constantly moving. Thus, it doesn't have the ability to change itself. And the dragon is oftentimes still. Thus, it can transform endlessly. And my mind, dude, it's been kind of fucking with me. A little bit fucking with me. Like, here is part of, hey, I'm always talking about what reality is. I'm talking about what my experiential experience of living is. And so it's all reality. It's all real. It's all natural. It's all natural. And so sometimes what I find this, that allegory of Plato's cave, I think of that shit. And you kind of think to yourself that when I first sort of got into philosophy or whatever, I kind of thought, you kind of think to yourself in a kind of hubris way that, when you're enlightened, you're fully enlightened and you're always enlightened. And you're enlightened forever. And you always know until the rest of the time. And then your job is to go and fucking wake people up that are in the cave. Well, what I have found is that, dude, it's like an infinite. We get out of the fucking cave. We start seeing things. We're like, this is real life, and then we're really just in a different kind of cave. We never leave the cave. It's just a bigger cave with a bigger light. And now we are the thing that casts the shadows upon the cave wall that we're in now. And God damn, I don't even know. I was gonna say something like, we go back into the cave or whatever. Anyways, I'll fuck that whole thing. What happens to me is I end up. The reason why I pulled the sort of allegory of the cave, Plato's thing, out here is because sometimes I'm living through the filter of some kind of construct in my mind. For instance, today was Kanye West's song, I Can't Wait. And in Kanye's song, I Can't Wait, he says, they want you caught up in distraction, fear, and doubt. I'd rather focus on the love that's been around. Sometimes there's just like a lyric or whatever that'll sort of on loop kind of go through my mind. And so, whether or not it's like true or whatever, it's like a motif in the mind. And sometimes I will apply an abhorrent amount of meaning and significance to these, utterly randomized kind of things in my life that I could have just picked that up. It could have just been a little piece of lint in my pocket that I happened to be like, it's a sign from God. It's God, don't you see it? And so I'm thinking to myself, am I caught up in distraction, fear, and doubt in this moment? So these are the kind of tenets that are piloting my whole entire system today. And it's almost like an escape room. You just gotta kind of fidget around, fuck about with the puzzle until you find your way out of it, through it. Maybe you have, find the sort of joy in it. Maybe, I don't know. So many ways, so many places we can take the helm. And, so I was really on my tiger shit today. A lot of it was on my tiger shit. And it brought about this kind of question to me, which is, am I in the middle of distractions right now? Am I wasting my fucking time and effort, putting in all this time and effort into these little tiny things that are distractions, that if I sat down and perhaps, pondered the question of, well, what is the best thing that I can do in this moment in time? What is the thing that I should be doing in this moment in time? What is it that I want to do in this moment in time? What is the thing that'll be best for the present moment in me? What am I not, what am I avoiding? Dude, it's funny, dude. If you just sit for a second, you ask yourself, what am I avoiding right now? What am I avoiding that I should be doing right now? That's an interesting one. What am I afraid of in this moment in time that I probably should do? What's one thing that, this whole sort of line of questioning, the limiting, the fearful limiting belief. I spent a lot of time today. I wouldn't say that it was wasting time. But I was doing a lot of, what I found today is that if you spend your time tending to the chaos of the world, that eventually just becomes your entire life, because there's no end to that. And so it's good to do that, to some degree, but at, like all things, there is a point of diminishing returns, right? And I recognized, I was like, there has to be some kind of level of tolerance to chaos and disorder that I would probably like to foster, because then I might be able to hone in on goals and whatnot that are further out in time and space, as opposed to just sort of handling whatever is on my plate in this moment in time. And what I see in this moment is I oscillate between, I am perfect the way that I am. I'm made, as God wanted me to be. I am, accepting of myself, loving of myself, sort of appreciating my own strengths, my own boons of life. And then I also see, I guess these are the moments in time where I see where my strengths turn into weaknesses, where they can be weaknesses, where once I only saw them as good things, now I see them like, oh God, that actually hinders me. And there's the chink in my armor. There is the fucking blind spot that someone can counter me at. I'm extremely highly sensitive to disorder and chaos, and I'm also extremely I've got a lot of torque. I've got a what would you call this? Look, I see disorder, I see chaos, I do something about it instantaneously. And so I'm like a bull to chaos and disorder. And so I see that fucking red cape, I'm like, and it could just be something so tiny, right? It could be something so tiny. I'll reach this feedback. First of all, what I have noticed in time is I do this because I chase my dreams, okay? And my dreams are amazing, and I love them. They're beautiful. And I also recognize that I can do this no problem when I'm alone. But then there's something called shared dreaming, where now your life is involved with other people, and you can't exactly break the rules of reality for people in that kind of way, because then the whole dream just explodes, and you don't get to sort of live with a kind of magic anymore, because other people want things that seem more solid sometimes, or they'll just start asking too many fucking questions about what you're doing. Why are you doing that? Can you stop? You're ruining the illusion for me. This kind of thing. Um... And so in this moment in time, I was talking about strengths and weaknesses, so these kinds of things. I saw another thing. I saw into a very personal sort of trauma that I have in my life, and that is, I had my window open today, and I was sitting there at my desk doing nothing. No phone, just hands together, maybe looking out the window. It's sort of in a intermission between doing various little tidyings up and things of that nature. And then a leaf blower comes out. And it's kind of loud. And I think to myself in this moment in time that I'm not personally bothered by the noise of this leaf blower. But what I did feel was a kind of fear in that moment. And I felt like a fear, a bother, a kind of like, some kind of activation energy inside of me. That was like, maybe we should close the window. Maybe we should dampen the sound a little bit, What if other people around me are gonna, what if the other people around me are gonna, be bothered by this? I've got a question. This kind of chapter that I'm in my life right now is a kind of through line in this chapter, the golden thread that is woven into a lot of my experiences nowadays is, I think it's like, so I'll be encountering childhood traumas or childhood belief systems, things that are like I get to see with the sort of with a 26-year-old system at this point in time. Things that were just autonomous, things that were, yep, this is just how it is. Now, I get to see it from like whoa. It's like when you go to somebody else's house and you notice, wow, their house has a particular smell to it. It's like I went on vacation or something like that and I came back to my own house and it's like, I smell what my house smells like. This is something that in my past, I never really got to see. I never really saw into my own particularities and peculiarities to this degree. I'd hear in stories. I'd hear other people talk about it. Healing your inner child. Childhood trauma and things like that and whatever. And I didn't really get it. Maybe I got like little tiny glimpses or whatever. But I had so much shit that I was holding on to, and I had so much shit that I wasn't willing to like sort of lay out before God. Like I had so much shit that I would keep in the dark. I had avenues that I would not dare even look in the direction of. And then, and I just, I to get answers to life, you gotta have questions. And so I wouldn't even ask myself the questions because I didn't want to get the answers solidified in any kind of way. I didn't want to hear the responses because I was so, dude, it's like in horror movies, dude. I was like, I'm not going over there. Fuck that, I'm not going over there. Dude, but nowadays when I hear that Aztecian death whistle, I'm like, let's go. Come on, boys, let's ride. We gotta see what the fuck is over there. It could be our next power up, dude. But anyways, here's the question. When you come across these sort of childhood traumas or one of those, something about your behaviors or your responses and reactions to various minutiae in the world, what do you do from that point in time? Once you sort of, I'm aware of that. I don't really think I've picked up on what to do once you see your own, I don't want to say see yourself. When you see things that you're accustomed to doing. I think at the most, it's just kind of like a response to a loud noise, or when someone sneaks up behind you or there's a loud noise and you just kind of like your attention goes to it in such a fast, flicks over there, eyes wide, you flinch, or you're like, you're responsive to something. I think it's one of these things for me. And what comes to my mind is, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Sometimes I think to myself, well, just because I notice things in these ways doesn't mean that it's necessarily even broken. And that it's not necessarily something that I have to fix either. In the same way that there's a saying, I think Mike Tyson said it, he said, you don't have to be courageous. If the only time you gotta be courageous is if there's something you fear. Which is to say, right, like, the phenomena that brings about courage is fear itself. If you have no fear, there is no need to be courageous. What lives in the space where fear and courage do not exist? The potentiality for, happiness or love or peace, joy. You don't know. Sometimes, this is something that I've had to duke it out with myself. I'm still probably even doing such that. Like, we just uncovered a little bit of thing right there. Like, I will lean on courage. I will lean on blind faith. I will lean on just fucking go, push it forward, move through, as a result of having that sort of fear that's there of the judging mind, the what if statements, the hustle culture, I've got to do it, I've got to grind, I've got to make it, I've got to be somebody, I've got to do something, I've got to... And it's like, well, exactly what I said before. I think it's better to be courageous over being, falling victim to cowardice. I think it's better to be courageous as opposed to getting caught in fear in that way. I have the perfect opportunity right before me, right now. There's a person coming my way. Can I let go of fear? Can I see what's beyond the life of fear? Can I see what's beyond the life of having to be courageous about something? I feel some type of way about this. I heard Alan Watts once say, well, if you did, then you view yourself as a child of God. Well, not gonna lie to you. Yeah, it kind of felt like that. This dude had a fucking high beam flashlight on his bicycle that he wanted to ride his bicycle on tonight. And in that moment in time, it kind of just felt like Judgment Day. And I felt like a little goddamn kid standing before my creator in that moment in time. Like, do you like what you've made? Oh, God. You ever think about that, though? You ever think about that? Especially as somebody who makes things. You ever think about that, though? That's a little funny. Because if you've ever made if you're a maker of things, you're a creator yourself, you've made things that you don't like. You ever think God thinks shit like that? They say God's all love, right? But if God is the creative force of the universe, He's made everything. I go over my sketchbook sometimes and I see some things. Really, I guess what happens to me in that moment is that it's not filled with any sort of feeling, really. I guess I can note from, some kind of orthogonal perspective, like in this moment in time, that I don't necessarily, it's not that I don't like things, it's that it's nothing more than just I'm just looking, it's like it doesn't even enter my mind. I don't even hold an opinion on it. If I didn't make something that catches my eye, that I like or whatever, I just move on until I find something that I did or that I do. And I'm actively, the way that I make things nowadays is throw it on the ground, get rid of that sort of perfect shape to it, and then, take a look at the shape that has been presented by smashing it up against something, and then seeing what it wants to be. And then just sort of letting, I'm okay with time. I have a better relationship with time nowadays, I think. Especially as somebody who creates things, in my opinion, sort of falling into my own calling. Like, you can't rush greatness. You can't force love. And so I used to force the square peg into a round hole because I didn't have time, or I was rushing and I was whatever, and I just wanted things done because, finishing processes and completing things was important to me at this time. And now I think to myself, well, it could take years to finish things. What the fuck is the point of completing things just to complete them? Why not just wait until the sort of creative spark or whatever is illuminated before me? Like, why not wait until the chemical reactions have happened, until the sort of I don't need to push out a shit. I'm not like, I can wait until it feels right to do it. And it's fun, sometimes there's a little bit of growing up, 1, 2, 3, jump. Nobody holding my hand out. Trusting the chaos. Sometimes it's like, all right, I guess we got to make some moves here. Or I guess, why not just make some moves here, right? I'm feeling pressure. Why not just put that pressure onto the page, I'm feeling blind here. Why not just move out and see what happens? Just expand outwards. I think to myself things like, what if I ruin it? So easily, I'm okay. Like, I can comfort that person inside of me now. My mind has grown. My heart has grown and my mind have grown to the point where I have enough experiential backing under my belt that I can pull out I can pull out the PowerPoint of on a logistical side to sort of calm the heart at this point where it's like my food's touching, it's not looking the way that I want, no, and I'll be like, dude, remember that all those other, remember the last time? Oh yeah, I do. Well, do you remember what you thought then? Yeah. Do you remember how important it was to you then? Yeah. Do you remember how it wasn't important to you at that time? Do you remember when it ceased to be important to you? Oh yeah. Do you remember when, something else was now your focus of importance? Yeah. Do you remember how you felt about that one at that time? Yeah. Do you remember how you always wanted it to be perfect for the longest time? Yeah. Yeah. Do you remember how when you were finally pleased with whatever it is that you didn't care about it, or that it wasn't perfect, or that your mind it just had that thing that it kept snagging on, or Or what about the other thing? What about the other thing? The sort of spontaneous little mistake there that you ended up really liking. And that if you went in with your sort of scalpel, your sort of surgical precision to bring things about, that little texturized fur, that little matted, whatever, that little crazed look, that little something, that little extra little boop, a little disorder in there, that wouldn't have came about as a result of holding it too firm, wanting it in a particular way. It's like, so you can see kind of where I'm at this point in time. Like, how much can dude, I've made some things where I let go of control entirely. And those were, whoa, my God, those were some experiences in the mind that are hard to translate, but it's like chaos, trauma, pain, hurt, whoa, confrontation, discomfort, ouch, terror, just on a page. And swinging pendulum between being in control of things, or, feeling like I'm in control of things, which is okay, because what I have found is when you're in control of things, really you're just in your neighborhood. Everything before you, you're kind of working off of patterns that are familiar to you, that you have honed, kind of, exactly how much of a scoop of coffee grounds goes into the freaking thing. How much water to pour in for, however many cups of coffee you're making. The amount of milk that it's going to take to do that. And how long your milk is going to last before you got to go buy a new one, because of how much milk you usually do use and you have an idea of these kinds of things. And so, when you're in control or whatever, you're sort of working off of patterns that have been established, and that you have an understanding of the sort of duration of these things, as well as how they feel. There's predictability. And then there's that little entry point of novelty. And when you sort of reach that little through hole of novelty, you also your eyes are open to many little vector points of the present moment that can be popped open with new novelty, and you just start wondering how much novelty is the right amount. How much newness is the right amount of newness, because I think to myself, well, I'm a very all or nothing person. I'm like, if I first started smoking weed, I'm thinking, yeah, give me 8 joints. I want to know what that's like. I don't know what I don't know. I'm like, let me see what the upper echelon limit is to this. Let me see what the crazy shit is. Let me see what the top heavy version of this is. And so I'll OD on novelty, my dude. I will try and overload my whole entire experience with novelty. Newness at every decision. Can I make my whole day? Dude, I've been living this kind of thing. Like, every day has been... Yeah, you know that saying? New day, same shit, new day? What is that? Same shit, different day? What do they say? Is that it? Well, you know me. Same person. New person, same old mistakes. Feel like a brand new person. How will I know what is right? Stop thinking you're the only option. Feel like a brand new person. Anyways. Before I get out of here tonight, is there anything else at all? Anything else at all? No, I don't think so. I would say think about it the right amount. I would say go with your feelings on things. Oh yeah, because that whole thing in my mind about, sort of living your dreams or whatever. Yeah, I'd say move forward with that. And on that note, I will see you later. I will hear from you later. So long. And this isn't goodbye, but I am going to stop talking right now. So long.